Hey everyone, this is Patrick from Code That Converts, and today's video is the first video I'm doing in a series about how you can optimize a Shopify store for page speed. In my experience, every Shopify store eventually deals with issues with page speed, and in order to make sure your customers get the best shopping experience in your Shopify store possible, optimizing page speed needs to be top of mind. This first video is about the importance of optimizing images in order to improve your page speed and how you can get started with doing that. In e-commerce, images are very important. Images are used to showcase your products to customers, to show off your brand, and to help customers figure out if your product is right for them. Most e-commerce stores use images on various key site pages such as the home page, collections page, and product page, as well as other important pages. Images are a vital part of the customer's user journey, and it's one of those things that can help you elevate yourself as a brand and boost conversion rate. Obviously, making sure you have nice looking images is a given, but did you know that the size and quality of an image used on a page can have a direct impact on how fast that page loads? According to HubSpot's article on the 11 website page load speed stats you need to know, the highest e-commerce conversion rates happen when the page load speed is between 0 and 2 seconds. Now, another stat that I want to call your attention to is that apparently 70% of consumers admit that page load speed has a direct impact on their willingness to buy from online retailers. Hopefully, it's perfectly clear to you now that page load speed is one of the things that can make or break you as a brand in the eyes of consumers. So today, we're going to discuss a bunch of issues related to page load speed and image optimization and how you can fix that. To start us off, let's use a real example on Shopify to illustrate the importance of optimizing images to improve your page load speed. I'm going to show you an example of a speed test done on 3 different Shopify sites with a free speed testing tool you can use called Google Lighthouse. Okay, the first example we're going to be using is from a website called Lagos.com. Lagos is a Shopify store that sells designer jewelry. And let's take a look at the page right now. As you can see, this is very beautifully designed. Like, just look at it. It looks nice, right? But they got some speed issues, let me tell you. So we're going to use Google Lighthouse to run a speed test on Lagos.com. I'm going to show you 2 ways you can do this. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're viewing the Shopify store on an incognito window of your browser. I'm using Google Chrome, and I recommend you use the Google Chrome browser to do this, but you're going to want to make sure you're in an incognito window for this. So I'm going to open up the developer console. We click these 3 dots up here. We scroll down to more tools and we look at developer tools. Inside developer tools, it's probably going to start you off here. You're going to want to click this little arrow icon and look down to where it says Lighthouse. Okay, cool. It takes us to this UI right here where we have the option to pick to run a mobile or a desktop test. You can leave the default as navigation, and we're going to test for just performance. Well, performance and best practices, why not? Now, we're going to run a page speed test on mobile and on desktop. So let's do desktop first. All right, we can see they have a performance speed of 48, which is honestly pretty bad on desktop, right? So let's run the same test on mobile. And I'm going to skip ahead so you don't have to watch the whole thing. Okay, the mobile page speed test is finished. And as you can see, their mobile speed is actually atrocious, right? So this is one way you can run the test. There's another way you can run it. It's essentially the same test. The scores might be a little different, but this is another tool you can use by Google, which is pretty much the same thing as running Lighthouse. I'm going to pull it up in a new tab right here. You can just type in pagespeed.web.dev and it should take you to the tool. Here you enter in the URL of the page you want to check out. I'm going to enter in Lagos.com, click to analyze. So as you see, it gives me similar scores as the other tests that I ran. There are these 6 metrics: first contentful paint, time to interactive, speed indexed, total blocking time, largest contentful paint, and cumulative layout shift. Look at the other test. A lot of the same metrics that's on the first test is on the second test, run with page speed insights. So let's take a closer look at some of the issues that Lighthouse and page speed insights picked up on this. So we can see that there are 3 issues here related to image size, or just images in general. So there's one issue right here. There's an opportunity to fix this. It says defer off-screen images. Another issue here says properly size images. And another issue that's down here says serve images in next-gen formats. If we take a look at page speed insights, we can see the mobile performance and the desktop performance on it. They're both pretty bad as well. And we can see a lot of the same issues are popping up. Defer off-screen images, properly size images, and serve images in next-gen formats. Okay, so before we can get into how to deal with some of the image-related issues that showed up in the Lagos Lighthouse test, I gotta show you the other 2 examples. So this is the first one right here. This Shopify store was built using the Shopify refresh theme. The Shopify refresh theme makes use of a bunch of image best practices. All the images are properly sized. The images are compressed and they're all lazy loaded. So it makes use of all the best practices for images, and you'll see that reflected in the store, in the score from Google Lighthouse. We're gonna pull it up. We're gonna run the first test on desktop. As you can see, pretty good. Now we're gonna run another test on mobile. Not quite as good as a desktop score, but pretty good compared to what Lagos was doing. All right, that's an example of the refresh theme. We're gonna now check out one last example from a Shopify store built with the Shopify Dawn theme. This is an example of a site built with the Shopify Dawn theme. Let's take a look at these speed test results. So we're gonna hop over to Lighthouse. Same thing we've been doing. Just look at this. This score is actually pretty close to perfect. That was desktop. Let's look at the mobile version of the test now. Again, this is also a very respectable score. So the reason why I wanted to show you this example from the Dawn theme as well is because the Shopify Dawn theme is like the gold standard of Shopify themes. The theme was built by the Shopify dev team themselves, and they make use of every best practice imaginable to make sure images are served properly and as quickly to the browser as possible. And this theme is always being updated. So if you're a Shopify merchant and you're new to Shopify, you don't really have the money to invest in a paid theme yet, or you don't want to mess with paid themes at all, Shopify Dawn theme is an excellent choice. I highly recommend it. I think you should check it out as soon as possible if you're looking for a great theme and you don't have the funds to pay for a paid theme, or you just don't want to. Okay, now we can get started with fixing some of the issues that was in the Lagos Lighthouse test. And the very first issue was deferring off-screen images. Let's take a look at it right here. If you click on the item from the test, it actually shows you more information about the item, and it shows you what elements on the screen is actually triggering it. I'm gonna open this up wider real quick just so I can see it better. So I'm scrolling through. I can see all the images on the page currently that need to be deferred off screen. So you can see the description. It says, consider lazy loading off screen and hidden images after all critical resources have finished loading to lower the time to interactive. So you can see that it says that the Lagos website on this page needs to make use of lazy loading. But you might be thinking, what is lazy loading? So this is what it is right now. This is the official definition. Lazy loading is a technique that defers loading of non-critical resources at page load time. Instead, these non-critical resources are loaded at the moment of need. So this is pretty much a fancy way of saying instead of loading every image on a page during the initial page load, the browser will actually load the images in pieces. So what it'll do, if we're looking at this image, for example, right here, this is the first image a user will see on desktop. So if we're lazy loading, this is the only image the browser will load. And as the user scrolls down to different images, it will lazy load in those images. So it loads in the images as they appear on the screen instead of loading them all at once. This is one of those techniques that make your page load speed a lot faster, and it's definitely something you should be doing. But the issue with doing lazy loading is that it's one of those things that kind of have to be baked into your theme already. So if it's not, there's a few things you can do, but you're gonna need some help to do them. So the first thing you can do is you can use a paid Shopify theme, or you can make use of the Shopify Dawn theme, because the chances are, if you're using a paid theme, or if you're using the Dawn theme, which I know for sure has this, whatever choice you make, it's most likely going to be making use of image best practices, and lazy loading is one of those things that most paid themes and the Shopify Dawn theme support out the box. Now, if you decide to go with a paid theme, or if you try to have a developer custom make a theme for you, reach out to them and make sure that they're making use of lazy loading on all of your images. The next thing you can do, which I kind of mentioned already, would be to reach out to a Shopify developer like me and have me or whatever person add lazy loading to your Shopify theme. Lastly, you could also try using a Shopify app to implement lazy loading on your site at scale. This could be a good option if you have a Shopify site that has thousands of products or hundreds of products, a bunch of different product variants, and it would just be crazy for you to go through all of them and have a developer lazy load each one. You can make use of an app to do this, but be careful with this. Make sure you use an app that has good product reviews, a good customer service team, and just something that won't slow down your site too much. Now we can move on to the next issue related to images, and that issue is properly sized images. I can look at the description right here and see: serve images that are appropriately sized to save cellular data and improve load time. Okay, so here's the explanation for this one. Whenever a web browser like Google Chrome loads a page, it runs through all the code and assets required to power that page. Naturally, a bunch of those assets are images. So what the browser is going to do is going to send a request to a server to get those images to display it on the page. It has to download the images from the server, and then once the images are downloaded, it has to scale the image down to whatever size is required to show it on the person's device. This sounds incredible, right? And it is. But the issue is, when you're making use of really big images, this could take a while. Imagine you have a site like this one, lagos.com, and every image is 2000 pixels wide and 2000 pixels tall. And also imagine that the person that is requesting these images is using a mid-tier phone on a bad internet connection. This is the perfect storm to decrease your conversion rate, and it's not a situation you want to find yourself in. Thankfully, Shopify allows for developers to make use of their server and serve images in a way that optimize everything already for you out the box. But this is the kind of thing that has to already be included in your theme. And if it's not, you're gonna have some homework to do. You're gonna have to manually resize the images yourself. Fortunately for you, I have a trick you can use to figure out exactly how big an image needs to be. Let's hop back over to my screen and let's take a look. Let's look at this image, for example, right here. I am going to open up the Chrome Developer Tool again. I'm just gonna go back to the page that I was on. Now you can see the view is currently set up for desktop right now. I'm going to click this button, this icon right here. This allows me to see the screen at different sizes. I'm just gonna set the screen size to 1400 because that's the size of a desktop computer, or like not a desktop computer. No, actually, yeah, a desktop computer with a really wide monitor. I'm gonna inspect this image right here by clicking the inspect icon right here. I can click on the link of the image right here. You can see this image is actually one of the ones on their site that is lazy loaded, but the rest of them aren't, unfortunately. So I'm going to look at the image right here. You can see that the browser shows me some information about this image. I see the intrinsic size of the image is 800 by 750, and the rendered size of the image is 1400 by 519. What this essentially means is that the intrinsic size is the original size of the image. So we can see the original size of the image is supposed to be 800 by 750. The reason why the rendered size is 1400 by 519 is because I made the page 1400 in the browser tool, and the image is supposed to span all along the entirety of the page. What probably happened is they're using some CSS to hide the image and make it look like this. Let's look at a different image to use as an example. Let's look at this. Oh, they're all like that. Okay, cool. Let's look at this one right here. This image right here, if I hover over the link for the image, you can see the intrinsic size is 800 by 950 and the rendered size is 1400 by 622. Again, it spreads to 1400 because that's the size I made the window. Just to prove it to you, if I change this to 1200, you see now the rendered size adjusts to 1200, but the intrinsic size stays the same because that is the original size of the image. Now let's take a look at one of the images for a product. Right here, I can see that the intrinsic size of the product image is 300 by 300 and the rendered size is 198 by 198. This is actually a perfect example. So in this case, the original size of the image is pretty close to the rendered size. This is very important. So with this, I can hover over and look at the rendered size and see this is how big the browser needs this image to be on this part of the screen. So this is desktop. Desktop is as big as your screen is ever going to be. If I change the view to be something like an iPhone 375, I take a look at another one of the products, I hover over it, I can see the rendered size actually went down, which makes sense because an iPhone screen is smaller than a desktop screen. So naturally, the amount of space it has for this image is smaller, but because the rendered size and the intrinsic sizes are so close to each other, this works. Now imagine this image was 1000 by 1000 and the browser had to make it 124 by 124. That would significantly impact your page load speed. So what I want you to do when trying to figure out how big your images need to be, you're gonna hop into the developer tools like I did. Go to more tools, developer tools. You can use this symbol right here, this icon, and adjust the dimensions to different screen sizes. There's a bunch of screen sizes set up: iPhones, Samsung phones, iPads. But what you can do is hit responsive and you can adjust it to be as big or as small as you need it to be. Let's adjust it to be big. So like I said, 1200. 1200 is a pretty big screen size. And then you can click this icon right here and click the image, and then you can hover over the src for the image. This is the image source, and you can see exactly how big the browser needs the image to be, which is the rendered size. As long as the intrinsic size is closest to the rendered size in the biggest form of the image, you're good. So what I mean by that is, if you look at the image on a wide screen like 1200 or anything above 1200, if the rendered size of the image, whatever it is, that's the biggest the image needs to be. So just make sure that the intrinsic size is close to the rendered size. That way when the browser loads it in, it doesn't have to do too much extra work to scale the image down. Now, once you figure out exactly how big the image needs to be, you can use a service or a tool like befunky.com to help you resize the images. Now, I used to use befunky.com a lot back in my freelance days. It's an amazing and incredible tool to help you resize and edit images. I highly recommend you checking it out. Once you resize the image to your liking, you can then re-upload them and solve that issue. So let's take a look at the last item in the Lagos Lighthouse test, and that is serve images in next-gen formats. If we take a look at the description from the test, it says, image formats like WebP and AVIF often provide better compression than PNG or JPEG, which means faster downloads and less data consumption. This essentially means the browser can download the images faster and serve them faster. So if you're making use of a bunch of JPEG or PNG images on your site, I'd like you to take a look at this website right here, convertio.com. You can take a look at it and you can convert your images from PNG or JPEG to WebP. You can just go in and click whatever image format you need. So I need JPEG. Let's find it. It is right here. So you just need to convert it over. You can drag and drop your files in here, convert everything, and then re-upload them to your Shopify store. And if you're still having some image issues after that, you can take the converted WebP images over to this tool right here, Tiny PNG, and you can further compress the image to even further optimize it. So this is something you can do manually to really improve your image optimization on your Shopify store. Now, if you're one of those merchants that have a really big store with thousands of products and thousands of product variants, then you most likely won't be able to go through each individual image. In this case, you're going to want to make use of a Shopify app to handle this for you. Now, of course, the same advice from earlier applies. Make sure you find an app with good reviews, a great customer service team, and just an app that's lightweight and won't put too much pressure on your Shopify store by way of page load speed. So that about wraps up today's video on optimizing images on your Shopify store. Remember, if you're making use of a good Shopify theme, it's very possible that a lot of these image issues will be solved for you out of the box, but if not, you can use the tips above to help you figure out how you can make optimizations yourself. And even if you're making use of a really good Shopify theme, it's always good to run a quick Lighthouse test to see what further improvements can be made in the page. Remember, we're making Lighthouse tests. The key pages you want to focus on are the home page, collections page, and product page. Once you've made as much improvements on those three key pages, you can branch out to other pages afterwards. I hope today's video was very helpful for you and you can use some of these tips to start making optimizations to your Shopify store to improve speed and to boost the overall shopping and user experience of your customers. If you enjoyed today's video, please subscribe to the channel and join our email list at codethatconverts.com. That way you won't miss any of the awesome content I have planned coming out for you very soon. All right, hope you enjoyed and see you in the next one.